First, it was the solar bonus breach of contract. This week, it's the wage-setting powers of the Industrial Relations Commission. Being in government means having to tread hard on some toes, it seems. And in the process, it looks like the real Barry is at last emerging. Fresh from scoring the largest landslide in the electoral history of Australia, Premier Barry O'Farrell this week fired the first shot in what will be an ongoing battle with public sector unions covering nurses, teachers and police. Significantly, the Premier has also picked a fight with the President of the State's Industrial Relations Commission, Justice Roger Boland. Speaking at the Jeff Shaw QC inaugural oration at Trades Hall last night, the quietly spoken Justice Roger Boland, President of the New South Wales Industrial Relations Commission, publicly complained about the O'Farrell government's amendments to the Industrial Relations Act.
That Parliament would directly fix wages and salaries for employees rather than an independent tribunal is a novel proposition in Australia. No other state or territory does so, neither does the Commonwealth. The effect on the Commission's independence is obvious. It is of particular concern to me as the head of jurisdiction, given the Commission's proud tradition of independence, the tribunal members, which include judges sitting as the Commission as opposed to the Court, will now be directed as to how they may exercise their discretion. They will in effect be placed in a straitjacket, and the test of, quote, fair and reasonable in the Act that the statute requires to be applied is no longer permitted to be applied.
Under the former Labor state government, the state's IR system's jurisdiction over private sector awards was shifted to the Commonwealth Fair Work Australia. In state parliament on Wednesday, there was another fundamental shift in IR powers. Premier Barry O'Farrell described his amendments to the Industrial Relations Act like this.
Madam Speaker, our system works on the principle that Parliament sets the rules and the umpire enforces them.
Premier, thanks very much for talking to us. It seems you're walking into a dispute with the state's workforce, the teachers, nurses and police. Will your amendment to the Industrial Relations Act, if it gets through this House, this Parliament, survive a High Court challenge?
We believe it will, but more importantly, this is important, Quentin, because whether it's Michael Egan, who had the same idea in 2004, saying that the Industrial Relations Commission had added $500 million to annual costs in New South Wales, whether it's Bob Carr's criticism of the system, or whether it's the wages policy that was pursued over the last 4 years, the same wages policy that we're trying to implement, we need to get some rigour into the process because it's simply unaffordable for public servants and taxpayers alike for the current process to continue, where higher wages are paid in exchange for promises of productivity savings, but productivity savings that are never made.
Mr Premier, will you table the Crown Law advice attesting to the constitutionality of this legislation?
Look, I'll take advice on that, Quentin. No one's asked me for that before.
Well, the reason I'm asking is because the opposition is backgrounding press gallery journalists that this idea to override the independence of the Industrial Relations Commission has come from Greg Pearce, who's a former employee or partner of the private law firm Freehills.
Well, there are many lawyers...
Whose idea is it?
There are many... Well, the idea was originally...